Good evening, and welcome to Media Matrix, a show about media literacy and social action. Tonight, I'm joined by Media Literacy Masters students Alexis Romero-Walker, Jeanette Dowling, Tyler Welch, Gnarly Simon, Maggie Sulik, and Kayla Grzycki. The mission of this show is to illuminate the topic of media literacy. We here at the School of Communications and Media Arts at Sacred Heart University dedicate ourselves to helping students see the pervasive power of the media, and we know that through education, we can help decode the messages and build defenses against manipulations. We do this through a curriculum that peels back the methods of media production, and we closely study the history and theory of mass communications. Our first report tonight comes from Maggie Sulik, who is an art teacher at a grammar school in Stamford, Connecticut. Maggie explores the protectionist stance within media literacy education, where the goal is ultimately to protect all youth from media and its negative effects. Maggie challenges this idea with a few of her own and resources from within the media literacy movement. Maggie?
After learning about the protectionist stance in media literacy, I have to disagree with its intent. Although I tend to disagree with this notion, it is important to understand the nature of this viewpoint. Renee Hobbs, author of The 7 Great Debates in the Media Literacy Movement, describes this very well. The protectionist stance that justifies media literacy by noting its power to reduce the negative impact on media on youth is most prevalent among those who do not directly work in school settings. This position is often exploited simply for its rhetorical value in conveying to parents and community members the relevance of media literacy education in schools. Hobbs is clearly emphasizing her understanding by pointing out that it is easy to believe media has a negative impact on youth when one does not work around the youth that the media is impacting. As an educator, I understand her point because I feel that the protectionist view is not as realistic as many citizens would like it to be. I work at a school that has adopted the extreme decision to disallow students to use their cell phones at any point during the school day. Keep in mind, the school performs all of its testing on computers, and teachers are allowed to use smartboards and Google Classroom for convenient communication between students, teachers, and parents. While I do believe the no cell phones rule is proving to be beneficial, I feel empowered to use other media platforms in my instruction, and I want my students to feel this balance as well. Many citizens who agree with the protectionist view believe all media is evil. I, on the other hand, think it's really important to teach our youth how to use media in a positive and productive way instead of as a means for mindless distraction. The most important thing we can do is stay informed and active about the appropriateness of media in the right places and times so that these debates continue to stay in question. Over to you, Greg.
Our next report is brought to us by Kayla Grzycki. She's here with us today to talk about millennials and social media.
Thank you, Greg. I'm here today to talk about our favorite generation, millennials. So who exactly is a millennial? Millennials are typically considered to be anyone who was born between 1982 and 2000, making most millennials right now about 18 to 34 years old. So millennials are college students, young professionals, the generation that is currently developing their own ideas, goals, and dreams that are shaping the world we live in, or the world we will be living in the next 10 to 20 years. There is a running joke right now in the millennial world about how we once used to type BRB, or be right back, in our group chats back in the days of AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. But now we no longer do that, because there is no goodbye. We no longer leave the internet. We live here now. Author of Radical Technologies, Adam Greenfield, says they are the last thing we look at before sleep each night, and the first thing we reach for upon waking. Greenfield was referring to the 21st century's beloved iPhone. The iPhone is a massive symbol in today's media-obsessed society, mainly because of its immense capabilities that it provides us with. When I was in high school, going on the internet was something I could only do once getting home. I had no clue what Wi-Fi was and definitely never imagined Facebooking on the go. Now I carry the internet in my pocket and am probably never offline. The funny thing is, Facebook is kind of dying in the world of the millennial.
Facebook can be a very overwhelming social network with all of your friends and family flooding it with photos and posts.
On top of school stuff and homework and jobs.
And that's interesting because I found a lot of university students, some of the people I used to go to school with, are deactivating their Facebook come exam time because it's just so overwhelming to consume, and it's an addiction. They're always on Facebook. So that's one reason.
And
another
they set
reason,
the trend. So it's fascinating to see if this continues, what does that mean for Facebook?
What does that happen to Facebook? Exactly. To avoid anxieties. It's a very... Facebook can bring out anxieties.
Yeah.
So that's reason number 4.
You have a lot of people poking at you and, you know, a lot of demands to share things, and then people saying, you know, hey, remember me from grade 10? I'm not on Facebook, but I know these are the concerns that other people talk about, and it's a bit of a time suck.
41% of millennials still use Facebook regularly, but prefer the other social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Millennials are considered longtime users of Facebook, and because of this, they are just tired of it. They are growing up and no longer want to compare their lives to others or scroll through the same feed they have been scrolling through for 13 years. Growing up in the era where social media was developing meant that there was a lot of unknown. So many millennials grew up hearing, once something is on the internet, it's there forever, more often than they probably wanted to. And those concerned adults were right. That is until we broke that barrier and created Snapchat. Snapchat gave us a whole new world of possibilities with augmented reality, filters, live video, and best of all, disappearing digital content. This idea that you can post a picture of your morning coffee or film yourself ranting or take endless selfies of yourself with moving puppy ears is too tempting to ignore for younger millennials. But puppy ears aside, our favorite generation has really found something unique and special. Social media can be our friend. It can be our biggest asset. And it can really make a huge difference in the world. We do an immense amount of sharing other people's content. If you can make a shareable ad on some social media platform that catches the eye of its users, your business is going to get more traffic than it would than putting out a commercial on live television, which is something that is a huge asset for businesses and organizations. Our entire life is lived digitally. We capture all of our moments in the form of tweets, Snapchats, and Instagram pictures. We get our news from the internet, and we live socially through group chats and blogs. Millennials have cracked the code long ago to social media and have really gotten a full grasp on its effects and the positives and negatives that come along with it. So take a second and explore Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and see what these platforms have to offer to you. Back to you, Greg.
Jeanette Dowling is a graduate student here at Sacred Heart University in the Media Literacy program. And she shows us how using contextual media aesthetics in commercial advertising productions influences our decisions.
Thank you, Greg. Hi, everyone. We know media literacy is important in understanding media messages, but how important is understanding the media production? Today, I will be talking to you about one of the many ways in which media influences us, specifically television commercials. There are people who say they are not affected by media or advertising at all. Let's take a look at what the numbers say. PwC Global Entertainment and Media Outlook predicts that television advertising will grow to over $8 billion by the year 2020. If advertisers were not influencing consumers, they would not be spending money on it. So, how are they manipulating us? The short answer is, in many ways. But today, I will be focusing on just one of those ways. It is known as contextual media aesthetics. It looks at the basic image elements, such as lighting, composition, and setting, and how they interact with each other to make us feel a certain way, to manipulate our perceptions, feelings, and mood. Experts such as Herbert Zettel say that we need to understand the choices made when producing a television commercial to help us analyze and interpret its message. I will show 2 ads that will show you how contextual media aesthetics influence you to feel a certain way. Nearly 80 years ago, the Federal Communications Commission authorized commercial television broadcasting. Bulova was the first to air its commercial for its clocks and watches before the Philadelphia Phillies and the Brooklyn Dodgers game in 1941. Let's take a look.
America runs on Bulova time.
As you can see, when television commercials began, they were pretty basic. Now let's take a look at Bulova's latest ad.
Love you more each day. Can't find the words to say how much you mean to me. True as a love can be. Could I forgive myself? I only know too well if I ever made you cry. Oh, baby, I would rather die, 'cause you're the light of my life.
What a difference. Let's focus on the production elements of the ad. Try not to focus on the imagery like the mother and child or couple kissing, but on the lighting and motions used in that imagery, as well as the music that you heard throughout. By doing this, we are understanding how contextual media aesthetics works and our reactions to them. Bulova's overall purpose of this ad campaign is to make it memorable by making us feel an emotional, impactful, and thought-provoking connection to it. Was it able to do this with just fundamental image elements that were used in the production? This is just one simple manipulation of many made by advertising. Contextual media aesthetics can really be a force to understanding media. Now back to you, Greg.
Next is Alexis Romero Walker. Alexis is both a student and educator of media literacy and holds a spot as a student representative for the National Association of Media Literacy Education. Alexis focuses her studies on media representation in the moving image, specifically toward representation based on race, gender, class, and sexuality. She demonstrates this through her examination of gender in popular primetime television shows.
Much of my research centers around the aesthetic of the piece of media that is being observed. This means looking at the lighting, composition, and mise-en-scène of the piece. When looking at gender specifically, I think focusing on feminist and semiotic research practices works best. This research is based on theories of Kimmel and Hooks. When looking specifically at primetime television, using narrative and character development through the practices of feminist and semiotic theory is my specialty. I previously did this with the popular television show New Girl, starring the one and only Zooey Deschanel. Within this text, I looked at how each of the characters define themselves as masculine and feminine, based on their appearance, language, and actions. To my surprise, New Girl did very well at breaking gender norms. The male characters displayed many qualities that otherwise would be seen as feminine. For example, Schmidt. He was very conscious about his appearance, striving to stay thin and use the best hair product possible. Many may even define his personality as heterosexual. As for Winston, he lived his life as the sad cat lady for the majority of the show. Rather than really pursuing heterosexual relationships, he was sad because of his lack of a love life and found comfort through his furry friend. However, he did not see this as weakness and was proud of who he was. Then there was Coach, who was seen as masculine through his love of sports, but he was also feminine through his experience of having many sisters and his love of gossip and being sensitive. And lastly is Nick, who is known as the manly man of the show, but when he becomes aware of his feminine side, he fully embraces it. We also see a break in these boundaries with the woman in the show. Jess loves being feminine and basks in her femininity, but we do not see the camera gazing at her. Instead, she is a lovable human being rather than a sexual object being observed. As for her best friend Cece, she is fetishized in that she is a model. However, she takes control of the gaze that is being projected toward her and pushes back against the male gaze. In all, the show New Girl is a great example of progressive television. There are times where characters are met with stereotypical gender norms, although most often they are met with extreme conflict after trying to perform that gender norm for the sake of performing it. For example, when a group of friends goes camping together, Nick decides that they are going to catch their own food. Soon, Nick realizes that he was unsuccessful and admits the only reason he tried to hunt for his own food was because he felt he was getting too girly when being in a relationship with Jess. Through the outcome of this event, the text shows that these gender norms are laughable and should not be used as an issue in people's lives. Furthermore, if you are looking for a television show to watch that challenges these gender norms, New Girl is the show to watch. And when watching other television, it would be good to understand and decipher how gender norms are being presented in the media you are engaging with. Back to you, Greg.
Tackling an issue that has become part of the national conversation is Gnarly Simon. She asks, is the kneel even the kneel? In her commentary, she dissects the way the silent protest referred to as the kneel is portrayed in the media then versus now.
Thank you, Greg. Hello, everyone. As you all may know, media is a resource outlet that holds many different platforms. Whether you're in the market for a new iPhone or just to catch up on what's going on in the world, we all turn to media. Colin Kaepernick.
Can he handle it? Can he handle the pressure? This is the big question with quarterback Colin Kaepernick. I've been talking to a lot of fans, and they keep saying, we can get to him. We can get to him.
You suck! Yeah, you suck, baby! You're in my house now! You're going down on the turf!
Well, you can tell everybody. Yeah, you can tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am.
That commercial was first aired back in 2013 for Beats Studio headphones. It's crazy to think that fast forward 4 years, Kaepernick would be facing the same exact lash portrayed in the video in reality. Back in 2013, Colin Kaepernick was just a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, shooting commercials for luxury sport headphones. Fast forward 2016, Kaepernick, seen looking much different from Kaepernick that was in the 2013 commercial. Here we have much of a raw Kaepernick, and without context and from this angle, you can't really tell what's going on. All we see is Kaepernick and a fellow teammate in the kneel position. Now you can tell that the national anthem, at some version, is being performed during the kneel. When Kaepernick was asked about the choice of kneeling during the national anthem, he stated,
"What are you trying to accomplish? What would you like this, to be the end game for you?"
That's basically. I mean, ultimately, it's to bring awareness and make people, realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust. People aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change. That's something that, this country stands for: freedom, liberty, justice for all. And it's not happening for all right now.
President Obama stated in an interview with CNN in 2016,
debate surfaces, we're always reminding ourselves that in a democracy like ours, there are going to be a lot of folks who do stuff that we just don't agree with. But as long as they're doing it within the law, then we can voice our opinion objecting to it, but it's also their right. And, I think that it's also important for us to recognize that sometimes out of these controversies, we start getting into a conversation, and I want everybody to listen to each other. So I want Mr. Kaepernick and others who are on a knee, I want them to listen to the pain that may cause somebody who, for example, had a spouse or a child who was killed in combat and why it hurts them to see somebody not standing. But I also want people to think about the pain that he may be expressing about somebody who's lost a loved one that they think was unfairly shot. And you know, one of the things I always say about American democracy is it can be frustrating, but it's the best system we got. And the only way that we make it work is to see each other, listen to each other, try to be respectful of each other, not just go into separate corners. And I do hope that anybody who's trying to express any political view of any sort understands that they do so under the blanket of protection of our men and women in uniform, and that appreciation of that sacrifice is never lost.
The pain he may be expressing about somebody who may have lost a loved one who was unfairly shot. Jump to just a few weeks ago, where Donald Trump states in his interview that NFL owners should have, quote, gotten that son of a bitch off the field.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
And he boasts on the fact that Kaepernick is still not signed to a team because of him, arguing that Kaepernick disrespected the flag, and anyone who kneels during the national anthem is also disrespecting the flag, and in result, they should be fired. This interview caused an uproar in the sport community and in the world. Players and fans all over have been photographed kneeling during the national anthem. The kneel, whether it's directly protesting social injustice or Donald Trump, both raise the matters into more direct light. Because football is something Americans pride themselves with, and we all know more about our favorite football team than our next-door neighbors, we should never think that Sunday football would raise important social matters. Kaepernick sacrifices art and passion to give a voice to people who don't have one. Because of Kaepernick, other issues are being placed in many American homes. It is all you hear about when you turn on the radio, TV, or internet, making it rather difficult to bypass the matter because now it can happen anywhere. In basketball, football, concerts, etc. Back to you, Greg.
The next commentary is from Tyler Welch, a media literacy master's student studying at Sacred Heart University, who enjoys concentrating on children's media. Tyler's going to speak about the racial representations in Disney's recent animated film, Zootopia.
Thanks, Greg. As we know, the more we watch media, the more media can shape how we view the world. Children's movies are no exception and can even address social issues today. You'd never suspect that the film about a small bunny achieving her dreams could shine a light on racism in our society. In Zootopia, Judy Hopps, the main character, is a bunny from a small carrot farm in the country, and her only goal throughout the film is to prove that she can be a police officer. The film opens discussing the animal instincts of predators to attack and how that is all behind them. The animals in the film function for all intents and purposes as humans with a deep history of predators and prey. Through inference, you can assume the races of the animals. For the purposes of this, the predators are people of color and the prey are white people. This argument is supported by several in-film moments. As the film progresses, it becomes apparent that predators are going savage, meaning they are reverting to their animal instincts. This is the first moment when you are able to draw a parallel to the societal crime narrative that people of color are more criminal and prone to violence than white people. Judy states in a press conference that this is all because of biology. This scene triggers fear in the animals that their predator counterparts might turn on them. This is reminiscent of the long history Black Americans have faced. Judy Hopps has linked the fear of the general public to the immediate biology of the predators. The documentary 13th addresses the origin of the fear of the black man by discussing Birth of a Nation, a 1915 film that showed the KKK as heroes and black men as violent criminals. Judy's mistake is feeding into an already worried public by giving them someone to rally against. Throughout the film, we get to know the mayor of Zootopia and the assistant mayor, Mayor Lionheart, a lion, and Assistant Mayor Bellwether, a sheep, a visibly unlikely pair. Assistant Mayor Bellwether, who is tired of coming in second to the predators, is actually behind a plot to frame predators. Bellwether is representative of a group of white people who feel that people of color are holding them back and are beneath them. This is a way of racially profiling predators in the film. Racial profiling started in the 1900s and has led to rules we still follow today, such as stop and frisk, which allows police officers to stop and frisk anyone they deem suspicious. This ultimately led to the use of stop and frisk in racial profiling, deeming people of color as suspicious. Applying these stereotypes to the film, we can see one of the main characters, Nick, who is a fox, aka a predator. Nick is a con man who aspires to be nothing more because of the assumptions made about him. While Nick is mid-con, he has refused service in a restaurant because he is a predator, which is racial profiling predators to keep them out of restaurants. Seems very similar to 1960s America. Although these come across as subtle nuances to kids watching the movie, Zootopia is showing the representation of people of color in society and their treatment today. Back to you, Greg.
We hope you've enjoyed these commentaries on these important and timely topics. Thank you on behalf of all of our correspondents from the Media Literacy and Digital Culture Master's Program here at Sacred Heart University. Be sure to subscribe and visit us for more cutting-edge commentary here at Media Matrix. I'm your host, Professor Gregory Golda. Thanks for watching.